What is up, my guys? Welcome back to the channel known as Azure. As always, I'm your most endearing host, Daniel. And before we get into this, gotta get rid of that YouTube bullshit. So, you guys, questions, comments, concerns, you already know where to put them. You like my video, you already know what to do. You don't like it, you know what to do. And as always, make sure you guys share the video because even if you guys like it, you know someone else might. And if you don't like it, you might know someone else who might like it. Anyways, to the video at hand, let's get into it. Disney Pixar's Soul. Now, Soul is kind of an odd one for me, really. Like, I remember seeing one trailer for it, and that was before the whole thing happened with 2020 and everything like that. So it's kind of like a back burner Pixar film if you really think about it. Like, all I remember was that it was before Onward. That's really what I'm gonna say. Like, it's just really before Onward. So yeah, it's kind of a weird one. Like, so I don't know. Well, either way, it released on Disney Plus and on Christmas Day, same day as Wonder Woman 1984, which if you guys haven't checked out the video, you guys should leave it up in the card or whatever the heck that is. That pops up with a little eye icon type thing. But yeah, back to the movie at hand. It follows the story of a musician called Joe Gardner who loves to play jazz piano. If you guys are interested in that, he plays jazz and plays on the piano mainly, and like it follows like the first 30 minutes of it shows him teaching a jazz class at first because he needs a job because musicians obviously don't get paid that much unless you're in the big time league or anything like that. So he's teaching jazz and so on and so forth. Then he gets a call from one of his old students saying like he might have a job offer for him, and lo and behold, it's a job offer at the most popular jazz club that even he had once dreamed of going into one at some point in his life, but he never thought it would actually happen. But he gets an audition there. He goes into full-on jazz mode, I'm going to call it, because that's what you call full-on in the zone, apparently, for jazz people. I don't know if that's true or that's not, but I'll call it jazz zone either way. So yeah, because the jazz zone blows everyone away and impresses the head of the band and says, you got some chops on you. Get a nice suit, fix up that hairline, and you got yourself a gig. So when that happens, he's all happy walking around the streets of New York, which is the setting of this place, and so on and so forth. Then he falls into a manhole and, well, he doesn't really die, but he doesn't really live either. He's more of that on the verge of death kind of thing, but the movie goes into depth saying like, oh yeah, he died. Even though in the next scene, or next few scenes later on, it shows him in a hospital bed, still with a heartbeat and everything like that. So I guess the movie's trying to say like people who die aren't really dead until they cross over to the next world, but he freaks out like normal, and because it's not his time, and he just started quote unquote living his life, I guess. And then he ends up breaking out of the great beyond, or the stairway to the great beyond, which is what the movie calls it, and gets into the great before, which I guess is where new souls come in and where people are being born. There he meets Jerry, omnipresent cosmic being, in a sense that's not really God, but also kind of is God in a sense. Pixar is kind of being all loosey-goosey with the whole depiction of this omnipotent creation, which is going to be controversial and in a sense in a small category of people. But yeah, he meets Jerry and I guess because Jerry doesn't really have like a gender or a sex, so it's an it. So yeah, Jerry gives Joe the whole rundown of what happens in the great before, where people get like little characteristic traits like egotistical, narcissist, compassionate, and all that other stuff. But the only main thing that people get is a spark. Now this spark is basically what people find interesting in life, like archery, photography, food, sleeping, in a sense. And once you get that spark, that's when you're ready to go on to Earth to live your life and so on and so forth, or to be born, in a sense. Now the reason Jerry's telling Joe all this because Jerry thinks that Joe is a psychologist that is supposed to be a mentor of some sort to the new souls who need help finding their sparks. But he's not. It's a common mistaken identity and all that and so forth. So he gets paired up with Soul 22 out of 100 billion type souls, because 22 is the oldest soul there, because she never found, because this soul is a female, and she never found a reason to get her spark, or quote unquote a reason to live. And hijinks ensues where Joe tries to convince 22 to live so that way he could get back to the world, and so on and so forth. This ends up happening where they go into the whole zone in itself. Like if you guys know, like if you're in a deep concentration mode, where you're just going ham and everything like that, and you guys know that nothing could get in your way, no distractions, no nothing like that. You're just in the zone. That's essentially the movie's trying to say, like, oh yeah, that's your soul actually coming outside of your body and going back into the great before, in a sense, where it just gets to be free and everything like that, which is an interesting take. I'll give you that. Like you'll have this question, like what happens in your mind state where you just go full on in the zone. Like this is an interesting take. Like it's not really your mind going out of it, it's your soul. It's like putting your whole heart and soul, I guess, into your actions, and you block everything out. So yeah, we see that then that ends up being turned into a portal to get back to Joe's body, but 22 goes in with him, and Joe ends up being in the cat, and 22 ends up being in Joe's body. And while they're trying to find a way to get back into the great before so they can swap back, 22 figures out, like, maybe life is worth living, because at first she didn't know how to control the limbs, and like she didn't know what to do, why she's hungry, why she wants to get a haircut or anything like that. But Joe gives her pizza, which she actually can taste, because in the great before you can eat as much as you want, but you can't taste anything, which kind of defeats the purpose of kind of eating, I guess. Like, it's an odd thing. Like, what's the point of showing food if you can't taste it or smell it or enjoy it for that matter? So it's kind of like defeats the purpose of having food there in the great before. But yeah. Other than that, like one of Joe's students comes by to his apartment, telling him that she wants to quit, because in the first scene where Joe's teaching it, she ends up getting into the zone, and everyone just stares at her like she's like that wasn't even supposed to happen. But no, like if you're in the zone, you're gonna be in the zone. Like that's the whole point of actually doing something that you actually like doing, getting into the zone, where no one could distract you, no one can get in your way, no one can tell you like that's wrong or anything like that. So she ends up talking to 22, who's in Joe's body, and 22's all like, yeah, give up, go ahead, just like quit, something like that, because like that's what 22 is, basically a quitter. Like she doesn't see the whole point of living, so what's the point of helping someone else try to live? But that ends up being a whole type of reverse psychology type way, where the student actually says, nope, you know what, I'm gonna keep doing this, I'm gonna keep practicing. And 22's confused by this. Like she asked Joe, like, why did she just say that? She said she was gonna quit, why didn't she quit? And Joe just straight up explains, like, oh, because she doesn't really want to quit. She loves playing the instruments, so why would she actually quit? She just wanted to see, in a sense, like if Joe would actually agree to it or not. But that's the first turning point 22 has in terms of what it means to actually live, in a sense. That cut to a few scenes later where Joe's in a barbershop because he needs to get his head lined up or something like that, and 22 and ends up learning another life lesson and saying, like, just because you wanted to do something in life doesn't mean that has to be your calling in life. Saying, like, because Joe's barber always wanted to be a veterinarian, but when he finally got enough money to go to veterinary school, his daughter got sick, and so he had to pay off all the medical bills, and barber school was a lot cheaper than veterinary school, which is what he says. And now he actually loves being a barber because he gets to meet all these interesting people and swap stories with them and everything like that. Then 22 starts out, wait, what happened to being in veterinary school? It's gotta suck being a barber. And the barber's like, no, being a barber is probably the best thing that ever happened to me now. Like, just because I wanted to do something that didn't happen doesn't mean I can't make the best of my situation right now. Which is a good lesson. Like, just because you wanted to achieve something but you couldn't doesn't mean you can't go back and like not appreciate what you accomplished beforehand or what led you to this point where you're actually happy with your life, in a sense. So yeah, that happens. Then Joe needs a new suit, so he goes to his mom, who's a tailor, but she was never on board with the whole him being a musician because his dad was also a musician, but she saw that he never made it. So, and the only reason that they actually got by was because of her tailor shop. And while she's saying this, Joe's telling 22 to say this and say, like, you know, this is my dream. This is all I ever wanted to be. Like, even if I don't make it, I know that it's something that I actually want to do. So it's something that you need to accept in a sense. Like, there's a whole thing with family movies have, like, where, like, I'm going to live my life the way I want to. Just because you don't want me to live the way you want me to doesn't mean I'm actually going to give up on my dreams and everything like that. It's kind of a cliche, I'm saying, like, it happens in almost every kid's movie or every coming of age story like that. So yeah, that just goes by. She ends up giving him his dad's old suit and tailoring it to his size, and it looks good. I'll admit the suit looks nice. Like it's like a, it's dark blue with black outlining and everything like that. It looks nice. I'd actually wear that. I would wear that suit given the chance if I had the money for a suit. But I'm a broke boy, so there's that. So, yeah. Then the ultimate like climax in a sense, or realization I should say, is 22's just sitting on a stoop in their suit looking at the world as a bright sunny day in New York, and a leaf falls into her hands, and she let alone figures out like, maybe life is actually worth living, like, in a sense. But Joe kind of like pushes that aside, saying, no, that wasn't life, that was just basic living. Like, there wasn't what you were doing, it was just basic living in a sense. Like, that wasn't a spark, there wasn't an inspiration or anything like that, because Joe still thinks like music was his spark and that's what he was born to do, and that's what he was always meant to do, and so on and so forth. But lo and behold, they end up having a near-death experience where they get their soul separated in a sense, and which is what they wanted. And then Joe gets into his own body, and 22 goes back into the great before. But there's a big old argument saying like you never wanted, between Joe and 22, like saying that Joe saying like you never wanted to live in the first place, so what changed now? You'll never be good enough to actually own a body, like, so what's the point of actually trying to go and live? Like the whole anger type thing, like the whole final battle in a sense, or the final confrontation. And then Joe ends up playing the jazz show, and he's like, so that's it? That's all we do? We just come back and play again? And the leader of the band said, yep, that's all there is to it. Go back home, then the next day do it all over again. Then he's like, I thought there'd be more. Right? This was my dream. I always thought there'd be more to it. And then the teacher, no, not the teacher, the leader of the band says, there's an old saying about a fish, meets an older fish and saying, I want to see the ocean. I want to go to the ocean and see it. And the older fish is like, what do you mean? You're already in the ocean. And the younger fish goes, what are you talking about? This is water. This is just ordinary water. I want the ocean. And that's supposed to be what Joe's the younger fish, and like saying like, this is all that there is. I thought the ocean would be better, that the ocean would be bigger, would be something more than what I was expecting. I guess it goes to show like, if you set your expectations too high, the end result will be a letdown in a sense. Like, that's really all it is. Like, you can't really overhype your own dream in a sense. Like, you could have dreams, but you just can't overhype them to the point where like it's something that once you achieve it, you'll finally be happy. Like, no, the overall point of having a dream is to know that you made it to the dream and look back into what helped you, what you accomplished during that trip to achieve your dream, and that's what's supposed to make you happy, feeling in a sense. Like, a lot of people think like, oh, once I reach my dream, I'll be happy. Like, no, the dream isn't what makes you happy. The dream is supposed to be your rest point. It's supposed to be like the thing that lets you relax and enjoy the rest of what you need to do. The journey to your dream is something that's supposed to make your life happy. All the memories, all the friendships, all the other stuff, all the accomplishments you made, that is supposed to be what makes you happy in a sense. And as Joe's realizing this, he ends up going back into the zone, and I guess in a sense dies all over again, trying to look for 22, which she ended up turning into a lost soul, which is what happens when you start living your life day by day by day. Like you can't find joy anymore. In a sense, it's a zone, but it's a dead zone in a sense where you turn into a lost soul. We're just getting everything out of the way. Like, you're just all like sad and everything, and you can't find anything worth living anymore. In a sense, it's not really suicidal in a sense, but it's also not living your life to the fullest, which I'm gonna say. So that happens. Then we find out that that sparks in a sense isn't really what you're passionate about, what you're supposed to do in life or anything like that. A spark is mainly what it means that you're ready to actually live your life in a sense. Like, you found that will to live. Like, you don't have to have ambitions in life just to live your life. You could literally just live life, and that could be it. That's literally the whole message of the movie. Just live life. Like, there just doesn't need to be a whole grand dream that you need to accomplish. It doesn't need to be meaning in a sense to have in your life. You just literally live your life the way you want to, and you'll be happy. That's what 22 figures out. That's what leads her to being born. That's what Joe figures out and gives him a second chance, because after he helps 22 be born, he goes back to on the staircase to the great beyond. And that's where Jerry comes in saying, like, we talked about it and everything, like, and you inspired 22 and you inspired us, which is a real rare case in a sense. So I guess you've earned this just this one time, and or kind of rewind, reset in a sense. And a little off joke being like, just make sure you watch where you're going and don't fall into any more manholes. And then as Joe steps into the portal going back into the real world, Jerry asks him, so what are you going to do with your new life? And Joe goes, I don't know, but I know this. I'm going to start living it. And that's it. The movie ends right then and there. And so, again, like, this is an odd movie. Like, it came out in a weird time in a sense, but it also came out at the perfect time, I would say, because with the whole thing, with the whole lockdowns and everything like that in 2020 and everything like that, people were trying to figure out, like, if I can't do anything, then what's the point of actually trying such like that? Like, you see all these motivational videos and everything like that, and like people saying, oh, do this, 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 and this, and go achieve your goal and everything like that. But honestly, like, with Soul, there really isn't something like Soul. Like, it's basically saying it's okay to live your life. Like, it's okay to have dreams and to achieve them, but you got to make sure that you actually start living your life and go outside to just, like, explore and everything like that. Just because you have a dream doesn't mean you have to dedicate your whole life to that dream. That's not the whole point of life. The whole point of life is to live it, to fill every single moment with something that you know, and you get to go home and say, like, I did this and everything like that, which is a solid message. I'll give you that. I'll say, like, for me personally, Pixar has kind of been in a decline in a sense, or the whole messaging and the whole nuances of their movies and so on and so forth. Not, mind you, the movies are still good. The movies are still good, but compared to what they were before, it's not really that good. Like, I'll give you this: Inside Out was a good start, but then after that was a decline. Like, even before Inside Out, there was a decline with the whole how everything was perceived. Like, say, like Cars 2, The Good Dinosaur, and everything like that. That was not very that good. But Inside Out was a bit of a rise, but then so on and so forth. It was slowly declining once again. But then you have Coco, you have Soul. You start to go back up, and so you start, like, learning all these lessons and everything, like the old Pixar in a sense. So yeah, it's a weird timing with the whole pandemic and everything like that, and all 2020 what happened. But it's also, it couldn't have come out at a better time. I was trying to say like that. So yeah, I'd say watch this movie if you're feeling like you don't know what to do with your life anymore. If you feel, like, overwhelmed in a sense, like watch this movie in a sense, especially like the last, like, half hour, I'd say, or the whole 22 being the whole not dead soul, like lost soul in a sense, and Joe coming back to life again, which is kind of weird. Like, I guess he died in the zone, like being in the zone again. Like, it doesn't really go that far into, like, it loses itself, like trying to convey, like, what it means to be dead and what it means to be alive and something like that, or what it means to transition from one zone to the next, because you have some characters that are free roaming in the zone, like, because that's what some people can do. They can free roam in the zone. Like, being in the zone means that they can free roam, and that's what Joe figures out at the end. But he goes to the point where he actually died in the zone, I guess. But the other souls didn't die in the zone; they could come back. So I don't know. It's like the whole continuity between zoning, dying, and not living, and not zoning, and everything like that is kind of weird in and of a sense. In and of itself, actually, my bad, not in and of a sense. So yeah, other than that, it doesn't really detract from the whole Pixar themes or anything like that. Last thing I will say, the animation, of course, is gonna be superb. Like, just the whole detail with the whole him getting a line up in a fade and everything like that. That in and of itself, like that animation, like, kind of, it didn't blow my mind as I thought it would have, but it didn't really suck either. Like, Pixar is still on the incline of the whole animation level. So yeah, watch Soul if you need to figure out if you're overwhelmed or if you don't know what to do, or if you just want to just watch a Pixar film with your family or even by yourself. Yeah, that's gonna do it for this video. If you guys liked it or not, you already know what to do. Questions, comments, concerns, like always, Discord and Twitch are gonna be in the description. Also, Instagram, also the new Instagram I put up. So yeah, that's all gonna be it. That's it for this video. Catch you guys in the next one. Bye.